everyone. Welcome to the Glow Podcast. I'm here with a very exciting guest today, Dr. Haley, and I'm super excited to have her on. If you're new here, we are Tailored Marketing, and we help aesthetic clinics, dermatologists, and skincare clinics grow their practices and increase their revenue. So if you're interested in learning more, drop a comment below. Dr. Haley, I'm so excited to have you here today. I would love for you to kind of just go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, all of those fun things so the audience knows.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Taylor. So I've been a board certified dermatologist since 2004, and I started my career in the Navy. So I've worked and lived everywhere from Hawaii to Washington, D.C. I was the dermatologist at the U.S. Capitol there. I trained in San Diego. I worked in the mountains of Colorado in private practice for many years, where I started to practice from the ground up when I left the military. I've had the whole range of experience, from working down in the desert of Arizona to working on the beaches of Hawaii and California to working in the Northeast where people don't see much sun, and the elevated areas. So I really like to be an observer of the way nature affects our skin, climates affect our skin, different environments affect us, and different skin tones, because we are becoming more of a blended world, so there's not, four different skin tones. We're all blended to some degree. So that's what fascinates me in dermatology and working with nature. And now I'm at the point of my career where it's time to give back. It's time for me to be in service of others, to empower people to live their best lives. And I do that through education on platforms like yours, as well as social media and 2 other podcasts that I host.
Yeah, wow, that's super cool that you've been in kind of so many different climates, like you said, and kind of experienced all this different level of, different sun exposure, everything like that. What have you found, I guess, when being in those different climates that has kind of, affected the skin the least, have you seen kind of a trend with that pattern where it's like, has the sun really affected people that much, where like in the Northeast you see different patterns compared to being in Arizona where the sun's obviously very strong?
Right? Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to me because we have this relationship to the sun, and if you're a dermatologist, you will have been trained, we're inculcated to tell people to stay out of the sun, because when you see someone take their clothes off, it's very dramatic, the areas that have seen the sun versus the areas that have not seen the sun, the amount of sun damage, which basically, if anyone watching this wants to look at the natural age of your skin, look at the upper inner part of your arm. So if you're on YouTube, you could see, I'm 53 years old, the upper inner part of my arm, it looks like an 8-year-old. It doesn't have much damage to it. Whereas the areas that are exposed to the sun day in and day out, like the face, the neck, the chest, the back of the hands, the collagen's thinner there. We get discoloration of the skin cells, fine lines, wrinkles, sagging, all the things that we declare as aging. But I also believe the sun is like this vital energy source that lights up our mitochondria and give us that joie de vivre, that zest for life. And we need it, just like all photosynthetic beings. So it comes down to more of what is our immune system doing. If our immune system is strong and we're getting just the right amount of sun to give us the energy without throwing us over the edge of too much DNA damage, then we get all the benefits with the least amount of risk. And we measure that through vitamin D levels, typically. Vitamin D is just a marker of getting adequate sun exposure. It's very complicated because there's a lot of variables involved in that. But going back to your point about sun, the sun in the Northeast is really weak compared to like the sun in the mountains of Colorado or the mountains in Utah, where I've lived both places, or even the sun in Hawaii or California. I noticed sea level sun exposure, people get a lot of brown spots. They get a lot of discoloration, whereas the elevated areas, we're getting more deeply penetrating UVA rays. And that's where I see a lot of coarse wrinkles, sort of like in those famous photos online of the truck driver who's never worn sunscreen on the left side of his face. And you can see the coarse wrinkles. That's from deep penetrating UVA rays. So the sun affects us differently depending on where we live. I'd say elevation does the most damage, significant damage, even more than if you live sea level with more sunshine. I see more brown spots there than the coarse wrinkles, believe it or not. So it's fascinating to me how it affects us differently. And it affects us differently depending on what's going on inside of our body. If our immune
Yeah.
system is healthy, we're going to be able to protect ourselves. If it's not, we're going to turn any little mutation or error of metabolism into a cancer pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I've never really thought about it like that, where it's like elevation would affect it because you're closer to the sun, Like in Denver, the mile high city, you're a mile closer to the sun than you are if you're at, say, sea level. So that's such like an interesting kind of take on it that I haven't thought about, but it's makes a lot of sense.
Just like pilots have a very high risk of skin cancer, and so do astronauts. I've worked with a number of astronauts, and the amount of radiation you're getting, even inside the tube that you're in, the airplane,
Yeah.
that's coming in through the windows, or who knows what else, things we don't have the capacity to measure, cause significant amounts of DNA damage, which can lead to a higher risk of skin cancer. So, yeah, it's really fascinating. At the end of the day, though, I like people to take a holistic approach of being healthy from the inside out, because if we give our body the power to heal from the inside out, it has really a lot of the tools necessary, and we don't need to be fearful of our environment, and we can have the full lives we want with the people we love.
Yeah, no, I love that holistic approach. And I guess for anyone listening, what like quick tips for kind of like at home care could you do for really helping promote your internal health? And obviously, in turn, that obviously helps promote your external health too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. So I'd say the biggest things is minimizing our exposure to toxins, and toxins are everywhere. So I think we overlook clean air and clean water. So I
Yeah.
have people start with like a reverse osmosis system in their house that has mineralization, like it's remineralized, because we want to have those minerals added back into our water, because we're not going to get water into the cells where it needs to be if we don't have the proper minerals. And then air is huge. So I have like air purifiers in my house, and I open the doors as much as I can. Now it's a little tricky because it's pollen season, but like fresh air to get some of that off gassing from our furniture out of the windows. And there's even a term in German society, I don't know the term is, but there's a term for opening the windows even in the middle of the winter, because it's so good to get fresh air into the house to get rid of some of those off gassing. So those are simple things. The other thing is, I want people to look at like everything that you're putting in your mouth as medicine or poison. So I was taught in medical school that food didn't matter, but I was a nutrition major undergrad at Cornell University. I studied nutrition, and it didn't make sense. Like, why would you take a medicine by mouth and it magically works, yet food doesn't make any difference? Everything we put in our mouth makes a difference and communicates with our gut, and our skin both came from the ectoderm. It came from the very same cell. And basically from my lips into my whole body, out through my anus to my skin, it's one circuit. And our skin and our gut are completely intertwined. There's conditions like psoriasis and eczema and rosacea that are clearly linked to a healthy gut or an unhealthy gut nowadays that we're now discovering. But common sense and intuition, people often know X, Y, and Z affects me this way. I basically say eat as many real foods as possible with one ingredient, right? You don't have to get overly obsessed with things, but like a packaged food, you're just trusting some company to say that that's a food. But the way our body sees that is, okay, I have to clean out all of the toxins, all the artificial color, all the artificial flavor, all the preservatives that are preventing mold from growing on that food, the preservatives that also will kill our healthy gut microbiome because it's preventing things from growing, and we want a healthy gut microbiome. So eat real foods, like stay on the periphery of the grocery store, just eat real foods. If you can get things that are regenerative, that are organic, that's always the best thing. But like most people don't have the budget to be completely organic, regenerative, pasture raised, all of that, all of those kind of things. I feel like the EWG.org has a good list for which things you should get organic. Like tomatoes should be organic, berries should be organic, whereas like avocados and bananas, not so necessary. They have a thick skin that's going to prevent some of the chemicals from getting to you. And then the biggest thing I have a problem with is plastic. Plastic messes up with hormones in our bodies, whether you're a man or a woman. I'm convinced it contributes to the hormonal acne I see around the jaw in women. That's really an epidemic in women in their 30s, 40s, 50s. Necessarily measure abnormal hormone levels in the blood, yet it's affecting us. These endocrine disruptors. I don't take the receipt at the store that has phthalates in it. BPA free is still plastic. It's going to cause issues in the body. So no plastic bottles near your mouth. No plastic containers with food, as much as you can. We're all going to have it sometimes, but like even when you go get coffee, the lining of that cup is plastic. And now it's hot with plastic. So we've all made these mistakes, and now we're smarter and we can clean them out. Whether we do sauna or lots of water and thyme, like there's lots of ways to clean out the toxins. So those are really the biggest things that I would have people do, is just remove as many toxins as they can, eat real foods, and then manage your stress. So we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond to it, right? So I had a rock hit my windshield a few weeks ago, and I was thinking I can make a big catastrophe out of this, or I could just get it fixed. At the end of the day, it just has to get fixed, right? And that's just a small example, because I know people listening, they're like, but you don't know, my problems are worse. Like we all have problems. And one of the lucky things as a dermatologist is when you see people undressed, they're very vulnerable. So whether someone's very famous or not famous, and whether they have an important job or no job, like everyone's pretty much equal where we're all naked. And I've come to realize over the years that we all have something that stresses us. We all have something that's traumatized us. We all have something that is concerning us at the time that affects us. And the only thing we have control over is how we respond. So the simplest and least expensive thing I like people to do is Dr. Andrew Weil created the 4-7-8 breath. He has YouTube videos where you inhale through your nose for 4, hold it for 7, and exhale for 8. And you do 4 cycles of that twice a day. And after 4 to 6 weeks, it can lower blood pressure. It has amazing effects on the parasympathetic nervous system, the calming part of your body. And I'll do it when I'm driving, in the grocery store, all anywhere. You don't have to set aside 30 minutes to meditate if it's not your thing. Just breath work is very helpful. So that can really make a big difference with a very, very small effort.
Yeah. No, and I feel like a lot of things too that like you talked about also contribute to, right now, obviously, and probably for, the past 10, 15 years or probably longer than that, anti-aging has been like the biggest kind of topic within skincare and everything like that. That's what everyone wants, is to have like that youthful skin. And so do you think like some of those internal factors that you talked about contribute to kind of better skin and that anti-aging effect, and kind of how that contributes, I guess, to anti-aging?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I studied nutrition, it was back in like the 90s, and everybody was on the low fat craze, and it was really the worst thing we can do. I was hungry all the time. My skin looked really dry and parched. And now that I understand skin, our skin is made of a bilipid membrane. So basically there's like fatty layers that hold water in between. So we need healthy fats like omega-3 fatty acids and olive oil orally in order to support that and hold in the moisture so we don't look dry and parched. There are also ingredients in food like astaxanthin, which comes from wild Alaskan salmon, that makes it that it's from krill. Basically, the fish that eat krill get the astaxanthin. You can take astaxanthin as a supplement as well. And other carotenoids can protect your skin from the sun. There's also something called Polypodium leucotomus, which is a fern extract, and that can help protect your skin from the sun. So I do believe that people who have seed oils get more of like a rotisserie chicken kind of effect from the sun, as opposed to that like
glow almost.
Yeah, the glowy, exactly. Yeah. And we know that you do not have to tan or burn in order to make sufficient amounts of vitamin D. So what I usually recommend people do is apply an SPF 30 or higher containing zinc oxide after they apply vitamin C in the morning to the face, neck, chest, and then sweep the back of the hands, because those areas see the sunlight all the time. And also that protective coating of the vitamin C with a moisturizer, hopefully, if you need it, and then the SPF, that protective coating also helps from particulate matter, which comes from exhaust from cars or just pollution, those little particles cause chelation and basically damage, sort of like chimney smoke kind of damage in our skin. So by having that layer, it kind of helps like things bounce off of it a little bit. So I do like people to do that every day before leaving the house. But I mean, even in Arizona, I will expose my torso, my back and my chest and my tummy for about 10 to 15 minutes 3 times a week to get my vitamin D level around 60, 70. I aim for 60 to 80 in the United States. And we still sometimes have to have people supplement. And there's even trickier things with supplements, like vitamin D won't convert into the active form of vitamin D without magnesium. And most of us are deficient in magnesium because of the way we farm. Our soil is so depleted because we don't rotate crops. So it's very complicated, but there's things we can do. There's so much we can do. And it all starts with getting a good diet. And then there's certain key supplements I like people to have, like fish oil, vitamin D3, K2, once they know their levels. And then I like astaxanthin. And then there's a supplement, a friend of mine, Dr. Katie Varman, I have no conflict of interest. She came out with called Soul Care. It's SOLCARE. It's going to be launched late in the spring. And she has done a lot of research on sunlight and the skin. And she's on the same page as me regarding the benefits of sunlight and where do we walk that line and how do you take care of your skin from the inside out, because we know people in the Mediterranean are affected a lot differently than, you know, someone who's eating an American diet that's going to the beach for a week. So yeah, what you eat matters, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I think that that's great. Again, like, I feel like the holistic perspective is refreshing, and I also think that a lot more people are kind of like hopping on board with like what you're saying. Like, I feel like 10 years ago it was very different, you know, and now I feel like people are getting a lot more on the holistic train, so it's very comforting to see.
It's empowering,
yes,
too, because you don't have to just like, you know, put all this white stuff all over you and avoid the sun completely and then go to your dermatologist when you have cancer. You can wake up every day and realize that if you have tomatoes and some kale in the morning with your omelet, like, and the yolks in the eggs, that lutein is going to help protect you from the sun. And there's supplements you can take to help protect you from the sun. But you also want to be smart about it. We don't want to get burnt and
yeah. Of course, it can still be a bad thing.
Exactly. It's like everything's the Goldilocks rule. We know this. This is life.
Yeah, no, for sure. And at the beginning of the podcast too, you mentioned now you're kind of in this point in your career where you're really giving back. Can you tell me kind of how you're doing that and what you're kind of currently doing with your community and everything like that?
Sure. I'm figuring it out as I go along because I think people tell you what they want to hear, right? What I'm most passionate about is syncing with nature, because I think that the more in harmony we are with nature, the healthier we show up. And science is coming out more and more with the benefits of light, and getting our eyes in the sunlight first thing in the morning basically starts our circadian clock to be in the daytime, and our metabolism, like our metabolic processes, all the enzymes in our body, they have different functions during the day than they do at night. So light really does matter. And with the advent of computer screens and indoor lighting, it's thrown us off so much. So I really like people to make sure their room is dark at night and they get in sunlight in the morning if they can, you know, even for a 10-minute walk, or just to get outside and get your eyes in the sunlight without sunglasses, just so it can get triggered to get in that circadian clock. And what's really interesting that a lot of people don't know is that we have photoreceptors. Photo means light and receptors mean to receive. So we have light receptors, photoreceptors in our skin, not just our eyes. So a lot of people think that they could sleep at the airport or in a lit room, and as long as they have an eye mask on, they'll get a good night's sleep. And this is not true, because if your skin is exposed to light at night, you're not in that restorative phase.
Yeah.
So during the day when we hit light, so just say I'm going time zones, I'm changing time zones. I want to get in the light, and I have some NAD if I can, because that will be mitochondrial boosting, and eat a meal, right? These are things that set us up for like daytime activities. And move outside. So light's really key. And once we hit the light, we're in this protective phase. That's why I love vitamin C in the morning, because vitamin C and antioxidants will help protect the skin from environmental toxins and insults. Whereas at night, that's when our skin recovers and restores, and there really is such a thing as beauty sleep. And that's when we use like our retinols and our vitamin A products on our skin and lots of hydration. We infuse the hydration in our skin at night when we have more water loss from the skin. It's our main opportunity to kind of infuse the hydration. And that's triggered by dark. Melatonin goes up, and we are in restorative renewal, make new skin cells phase. So if you're not getting good sleep, you're not really giving your body the opportunity to make new skin cells, which is not really what we want. The second phase of the like working in sync with nature is for women who are cycling to work with their infradian rhythm or our monthly cycle, because our hormones are different throughout our cycle. So basically, like day one is the first day of someone's period, and that's when the hormones are at the lowest. And somebody will be more dry. I am right now, so I'm super dry. I'm looking at myself in the camera, and I could see, oh, I'm so parched and dry, right? So we'll be dry. Our hormones will be lowest. Our progesterone, our estrogen are at their lowest. So you want to add extra hydration. Don't exfoliate that week. Maybe pull out your retinol to like once a week instead of every night or 3 times a week. There's little modifications people want to do. Our second week is when we're in our follicular phase and our estrogen starts to boost up until we hit ovulation, and our skin is like amazing then, like lots of collagen. It's a great time for procedures. You always want to do procedures when you're in your follicular or ovulatory phase, but you're also the most social, so you might have like a lot of dates and social activities, so you got to prioritize. But it's a great time to like experiment with products. You can pretty much do anything to your skin during that time. And then your luteal phase, after ovulation, the progesterone dips, and this is when like things can get really thrown off and people can get those monthly breakouts that they don't want. So that's when I usually have people bump up exfoliants and use some salicylic acid if they're oily or they tend to get plugged skin cells. And there's different ways that we can modify based on everyone's personal cycle. And then the third one is like we cycle with the seasons. So we want to change up our skincare every 3 months with the season. And then we also have the seasons of our life, right? So what you need when you're in your teens is different from when you're in your 30s, which is different from when you're in your 50s. So that's where my passion is like how can we change our skincare and our lifestyle to kind of match and work in harmony with all of those phases of life. And I just teach stuff for free. I do it for fun because that's where I'm at, like I learned and now I just don't want people to make all the mistakes I've made.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's super, super cool. That's things like, I feel like with like the cycles for women and stuff, it's become a more commonplace topic, but I haven't even really like thought about it a ton with my skin. Like you notice that your skin is different kind of at different times of the month. You're like, oh gosh, I'm breaking out. Or like you said, like, I'm like, my skin's really dry right now, or like my skin's oily. But I've never thought to really like match it with my cycle. So that's super cool that like I feel like that's very like innovative and kind of new too.
Yeah, eventually, it's not the same every month. Like we're evolving. We're always evolving. So I like to give guidelines to people, and then eventually I want everyone to be intuitive. And I have, a ton of skincare on my counter, and I just kind of know what I need. And I feel that everyone can eventually get there. Sort of like if you look at food, right? Broccoli's healthy. Let's just say broccoli's healthy and wild salmon is healthy. If we had it for every single meal, every single day, all year long, we would not be a healthy person. Yeah. And the same thing is with skincare. Like we don't want to change it so often that it makes our skin irritated and angry, but we should be reassessing our skincare like really every 3 months for the whole program. And then, every week, like how is my skin responding to this? Not in an impatient, impulsive way where we're going to get angry, irritated skin, but more of an intuitive way. Like, oh, this is kind of burning. I'm going to skip exfoliation, even though it says I need to do it 3 times a week. Like it's not right for me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure. And right now, I guess, like, what is one of your favorite skincare that you're using currently, or something that you're recommending to people?
Right. Yeah, there's so much out there. So I just helped create. I'm the founder of a company called Moon and Skin, and I just helped create a line with them. And what I like about it, there's a couple things I like about it because I created it,
Yeah.
So I like the cleanser because the cleanser is a superfood cleanser. It's from coconut, basically coconut surfactants, so it's not drying, and there's like kale proteins and other like vegan proteins in there. And it cleans the skin without drying it out. So what do people look for with a cleanser is basically I want them to make sure their skin is cleansed. Like if you take some micellar water afterwards, you shouldn't be able to get any more makeup or anything off your skin, but you shouldn't feel like it's tight or taut or burning. That's
Yeah.
what you want from a cleanser. A cleanser should remove what it needs to remove without stripping your skin barrier. Then it's defeating the purpose. Then there's a vitamin C serum where the active is it's a stem C serum basically. So it has stem cells in it to kind of enhance cell turnover and make fresh skin cells, which we want. But the vitamin C is not ascorbic acid, which we've used traditionally over the years. Ascorbic acid is really unstable. So what happens in a lot of these vitamin C's is they turn brown really quickly. And that's because heat, oxygen, and light will inactivate the ascorbic acid. So this form of vitamin C is sodium ascorbyl phosphate. And the sodium ascorbyl phosphate is great for sensitive skin and for anyone who gets acne. Because the biggest thing I've seen over the years are people who have acne can't tolerate vitamin C. And when you have acne, you're actually deficient in antioxidants and you need them, but it's just not been tolerated. So that's what I like about it. It's really thin, so it soaks in. So it's great for like anyone with oily skin or anyone who's acne prone. And it works for mature skin as well, especially if you want to layer things. And then there's a moisturizer. It's a brightening hyaluronic acid with kojic acid moisturizer. So kojic acid binds with some of those heavy metals in the environment from pollution and makes them like inactive so they don't cause like the toast look on our skin, like the browning. And the hyaluronic acid is, nice and moisturizing, but it's not too heavy. So it's also good for anyone who has acne prone skin. And then the retinol is what we use at night to help renew the skin. And traditional retinol strips the skin barrier. Like it's hard for people to tolerate. It's not on TikTok. It's not sex. It's been around since the 1970s, but it has the most science behind it to help reverse sun damage, to help lift off pigmentation, to help with acne, to help with fine lines and wrinkles. It's just hard to get people to use because they get irritated and red and scaling. So we have such a hard time getting people to use it. I've used it for 20 plus years and I still peel if I do it every night. I can't seem to do it more than a few times a week. So now there's new technology called liposomal retinol. So we're using this liposomal retinol, and there's these little phospholipid kind of sacs that penetrate through the epidermis and they get to where they need to be in the skin to stimulate collagen and all of that. So the technology is coming around where we're getting so many benefits without the irritation. So that's what I've helped create at Moon and Skin. And we'll create new products with each season to match how the seasonal changes are. Like in the summer, there'll be more antioxidants. In the fall, I'll probably have things that help with pigmentation that people have gotten over the summer and keep evolving that way. So, but there's so many ingredients out there. I'm happy to talk about everything.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'll definitely have to put that in the show notes too, so people can check out the link. And I'm definitely gonna check it out. That sounds super super cool. And yeah, no, I use a retinol right now, but like I've had kind of the issues that you were talking about with retinol, like where it's kind of like makes you red. You feel like your skin feels stiff when you take it off because you can almost like tell it kind of, I don't know, like stripped your skin of what's on it and stuff. So that sounds really, really cool what you were talking about.
There's a few tricks. There's a few tricks you could do just so you didn't waste your money on the retinol you have. But I will. We'll send you some of the liposomal. So there's a sandwich technique you can do. So get a ceramide moisturizer, apply it to your face, let it soak in, then take your retinol, 1 or 2 pumps or like a pearl or a pea-sized amount, dot your forehead, dot each cheek, dot your chin, dot your chest, and rub it in, avoiding the creases of your nose, the corners of your mouth, and then your neck and your eye. And then put another layer of moisturizer on it. So it's like a sandwich. You're putting the retinol on between moisturizer,
Okay.
The second thing you can do is there's a product called AO2 Clear, and it's hyperoxygenated water. And it's
Okay.
basically like after you wash, you put it on your skin and you let it evaporate and dry. It's great for anyone who's acne prone. I like it post procedure, and I like it if someone's having a retinoid dermatitis, and let it dry. And I find for some reason people can tolerate the retinoid better as well. And
Okay,
the
cool.
third thing you can do is short contact. So you put it on and wash it off in like a half hour.
Okay.
So it sends signals to the nucleus of the cells, but then it won't tear up your epidermis, the top layer of your skin. But
Okay.
that's why we created liposomal technology. And well, we
Yeah.
didn't create the technology, but that's why we're using the technology to, avoid as much of that as possible.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes sense for sure because if like you didn't have access to someone like you to talk to about it, then you're just like, okay, maybe this isn't the best thing for my skin, or whatever and things like that. But you were kind of talking about with the new technology and everything, like what are you most excited about right now? I feel like the aesthetic world, dermatological world, all of it kind of ever evolving. Is there anything right now that is coming out that you're like, wow, like I'm so excited to see kind of like the potential with this?
Yeah, I would say the thing that I'm most excited about, because I've used exosomes since 2016, way before they were FDA approved. I have some questions on how much they penetrate in non-compromised skin. So I think
Mm-hmm.
they work well with laser or microneedling to help heal a little bit quicker. I'm not sure if they're worth the price point though.
Yeah.
That's the jury for me. So I use it with microneedling. I'll use it post laser because I
Mm-hmm.
do think if I do one side of the face and not the other, people will heal quicker. They'll have less redness, but they're pretty expensive. So
Yeah.
I'm not convinced they're really ready for prime time in daily skincare. Just
Yeah.
I cycle them in and out post procedure. I'm really excited about DNA repair enzymes because let's just be honest, like at my age, I'm excited about any potential we have to reverse sun damage
Yeah.
because I did not wear sunscreen until I was at least 30. I remember when it came out, I was like, ew, I go in the sun purposely to get a tan. Like, why would I want that? So now, of course, 20 plus years later, I'm regretting it, right? So DNA repair enzymes, I'm still trying to understand exactly how they work and to what degree they work. But I really like the concept of DNA repair enzymes. And
Yeah.
then just all of like the I'm interested in like the injectable peptides. That's really fascinating to me. A
Yeah.
lot of those are hard to get and they're not well studied, but I like the inside out approach more than anything else.
Yeah. No, for sure. Can you, for the audience who like doesn't know, could you talk a little bit more about the peptides and kind of the injectable peptides and what the potentials are with that?
Yeah, there's so many, but basically, what is a peptide? Like, what is a peptide, whether it's in skincare or whether it's injectable or whether it's collagen peptides that you might drink, right? Peptides are chains of amino acids. So when you have like a piece of steak or a protein is basically 50 or more amino acids that are linked up together. So we have essential amino acids that we need to get from our diet, and then we have non-essential amino acids that our body can actually make if it has the building blocks. So we have to get those essential amino acids every single day for our muscles, for our skin, because collagen is made of protein. So unfortunately, I lived as a vegan for 10 years. And a lot of people who go vegan, I know this, anytime you talk about nutrition, people get upset. But like
Yeah.
when people go vegan, often for the first few months they'll do better because they're not having a lot of processed foods and things like that. And then I notice around 6 months, hair starts falling out, skin starts not looking well because we don't get enough protein from vegan sources. We maybe capture about 30%. So if you're having, 100 grams of protein from vegan sources, your body might only absorb about 30, whereas from animal sources, which I hope that it's humane sourced,
Yeah.
because that matters a lot, as much as we can. That's where my money goes is like food and getting good sourced food because
Yeah, for
it's a
sure.
full-time job in this world. But like protein's really important. So protein is 50 or more amino acids, and basically like 20 to 50 amino acids is an oligopeptide, but like less than 20 amino acids is a peptide. And you can have 2 amino acids can be a peptide, or like, 10 or 15 or 20. And these peptides, a lot of them in skin, they're signaling molecules. They send signals to do different things, right? So in the skin, we usually want the signal to be, hey, make more collagen, hey, make more elastin, make more hyaluronic acid, or what we call GAGs, or glycosaminoglycans, which is basically like the sticky glue that when you grab your cheek, you have that substance there and it's not just sagging. And how quickly can you snap back, your skin from your hand? Is it good? Or your like, that's your elastic tissue, and that's what we want peptides to stimulate, more fresh fat, so it doesn't have like that slow lag kind of thing going on. Now, when you do them injectable wise, and I've taken courses on this, there's all sorts of things. Like insulin, for instance, is a peptide, and insulin signals to the body to store glucose as fat, or in the glycogen in the muscles and the liver. So they're basically signals. So peptides are signals to do different things. It could be a signal to your brain to make more growth hormone. It can be a signal, like there's one called GHKCU, there's a signal to make more collagen or make more hair. And I don't find the topical form of that to work as well as the injectable form. The FDA basically took the injectable form away from compounding pharmacies, so I haven't been able to recommend it in a long time. There's a lot of black market stuff, so I don't want to really give people advice on what to do. There's some that will like enhance muscle building. There's some that will reduce visceral fat. There's some that will, like there's one that's very well known called BPC 157 that is body protected compound. You can take it in a pill, and that one is available, and it works actually really well if you have like reflux or like some stomach. It works for some stomach issues. People have done it injectable for joint issues, and it raises something called VEGF, which is vascular endothelial growth factor. But like there's also people that like are like, oh, if you're growing more blood vessels, maybe you'll make more cancer. So it's not like any of these are like all good or all bad. It's like, once again, the Goldilocks, and like, how can we use the benefits of it in short little periods of time to help with, let's just say, like a tennis elbow, without stimulating it too much to throw someone into cancer. There's just a lot we don't know about these things, but there are definitely people in that world, in the functional medicine world. And I've gone to these meetings where, we've discussed that. And I get excited about that, because anything we can do to support our body to be at its finest, I want. It's not like shutting down a system by giving someone testosterone and then it shuts down their system. We're just stimulating the best of it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That is exciting. That's super, super cool for sure. And so I guess, is there anything else that like you want people to know, like with us talking about holistic health, is there anything else where you're like, oh my gosh, yes, people definitely should know this, or anything like that?
Yeah. So women who are perimenopausal, which can be like 15 years. So you could start being perimenopausal like at 35. And a lot of times the first symptom might be really heavy periods, or problems sleeping, or just lots of talking and like anxiety. And that's because progesterone can drop quicker than estrogen, and it can make you appear what people call estrogen dominant. So I would just say, don't be afraid of hormone replacement, case by case basis, but talk to your GYN or talk to your functional medicine doctor or your naturopath about potentially doing that. We lose about 1% of collagen per year starting around age 30. And then when somebody hits menopause, within the first 5 years after menopause, they lose 30% of collagen. So we really need estrogen. So if people can't do it hormonally, orally, or even if they can do it, not orally, but topically, typically in a cream, if they cannot do estrogen supplemental therapy, then you can still do it in a cream form. So I have some patients that have had breast cancer, and we do it in a cream formulation, in a compounded cream, and their skin has changed so much. And studies have shown that it is not measured in the blood. So we're considering it in the, not dangerous category if you have a hormone sensitive breast cancer. This is not medical advice. We want you to be the healthiest you can, but also like look and feel your best as well. So intravaginal and topical estrogen does not seem to be absorbed by the body, but it's helping those end receptors so you can have your best skin and your best sex life.
Yes, no, that sounds great. Thank you so much. So tell my audience where they can find you. I'll also put everything in the show notes too, but where is the best place to find you?
Yeah, so professionally, I love LinkedIn, Jennifer Haley, MD, Jennifer T. Haley, MD, and then on Instagram, Dr. Jen Haley, DrJenHaley. And then I host 2 podcasts. One is called Radiance Revealed, and the other one is called Listen to Your Skin.
Yay! Okay, awesome. Yes, and like I said, I'll put everything in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for coming on. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Taylor.